Hey everybody, this is Frankie Drinks and this is Leaf and Dram, and I'm here with my wonderful host today, Miss Eileen Andrade. We're at FINKA yet again. We're having a great opportunity to sit down and really talk about, I think, one of the best places in Miami. If you haven't heard, you're going to get a real in-depth opportunity right now to find out about FINKA Table and Tap. So, Miss Aileen Andrade, welcome to my humble podcast.
Well, welcome to FINKA. We are live from FINKA.
It's nice to be here for the 1,000th time, and it's always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very excited, and yeah, it's Happy Tuesday. We're here. We're having some cafecito cubano and possibly some drinks after. Or during.
It's always during, before, during, and after. So, but we're going to start with a little café cubano.
Yes.
So for everybody out there. And café cubano, when do you have a Cuban coffee?
Like you said before, during, and after.
Every 3 hours if you're Cuban. If not, you die.
Exactly. We had some guys doing an install here yesterday, and they're American, and they were like, we've been living here for 5 years, and we can't stop the Cuban crack. Well, that's what happened. So when I walk into the restaurant, first thing, which I never made this like a point, it just started to happen, is my ladies that work on cold line will have a cafecito there waiting for me. And I find that like everyone does it their own way. One lady puts like a piece of sage next to it. Another lady puts a little napkin under the cafecito. But I love that they do that. I never asked them to, but I guess they know I always ask for coffee in the morning. So yeah, I have usually when I walk into work, and then midday, and then an espresso martini to end the shift.
Right. That's pretty good. Back in the day, we would, seriously, depends if you're caffeine resistant or not, right. Which I think I am.
Yeah.
When I was a musician, and we would have a colada before going on stage, and that was always fun. That's usually 10, 11 o'clock.
It's kind of like a ritual thing too. Yeah. It's a ritual, and it peps you up. So.
Yeah, and I learned that from Lara. So
I don't know who Lara is.
So he was a local guy. And he'd go around right before stage. He'd always have a colada in hand, and he'd be drinking and passing it around. So it became a ritual for us. And a café cubano is something that for everybody out there, if you grew up Cuban or not, it's like ground level hospitality.
Yes.
Somebody walks into your home. You offer them coffee. You ask, but it's coming anyway.
Yes.
So it's.
And if you're at the peluqueria too.
Yes.
I don't know if you know.
So for peluqueria is the hairdresser. So for those of you that are Spanish and but so yes, if you go to the hairdresser, if you're sitting at the barber shop, somebody's walking in, and I think it's required by law. Every 15 minutes, somebody has to come in with a colada. So what you guys understand, colada is kind of like an 8-ounce cup.
It's like a double espresso.
Right.
Or it depends. I order a double espresso at Starbucks, and it's like the same as a regular coffee. So it's like a quadruple espresso with sugar. So
theoretically, somewhere between 6 to 8 ounces of espresso. The difference between espresso and Cuban coffee. Cuban coffee is espresso with sugar added. Correct. So very, very simple. And I like to kind of talk about the Cuban coffee is like a cocktail, right? You look for the absolute balance between what makes a great Cuban coffee, that the bitter is balanced out by the sugar.
Right.
One's not more than the other.
Right.
And so to me, a perfect Cuban coffee has to have that balance between bitter and sugar and pumita.
Pumita, very important.
So
that is achieved by getting sugar and adding a little bit of coffee to it, and really, really, really getting in there, getting your wrist going, the flick of the wrist,
right.
And creating this almost like a sugary foam.
Yeah.
So once the coffee hits it, it creates an even more delicious foam at the top. So you have this head of that we call that espumita. Right. That's very important in Cuban coffee.
And when we have to explain to people, but it's hard for them to get it. But it's sort of like if you're baking and you're creaming sugar and butter, right? Same concept. Right. It's just to break down the sugar.
Yeah.
So it becomes like this little paste.
Right.
And then of course if you have a great espresso machine, it's going to come out with its own foam. If you don't, even you'll create some. So
Right.
it's absolutely delicious, and no need for a little rind of lemon.
Right. I mean, that's
You know?
very old school. Very old school.
But that, that's kind of coming from the Italian
Right.
school of a dark roast coffee that needs that, that's gonna, accentuate the
Right.
bitter. It's what they like. It's cool. Sometimes I like it without sugar, but my
Yeah.
preferred method is gotta have a little shot of that sugar.
A little bit.
So listen, so we start with a little hospitality. So thank you for the coffee. Let's tell everybody the story of FINKA.
The story of FINKA. It's been 8 years. We opened in 2014, July 1st.
Salud, cheers.
Thank you. Yeah, we just celebrated 8 years. It feels like yesterday, which is strange.
It does to me. I was here on opening day twice.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to give everyone a little bit of background of where we're located, we're in West Kendall, kind of the burbs of Miami. We're about 20 minutes from the airport, about 27 minutes from the beach, way out west near the Miccosukee, near the Everglades.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're in the burbs, and we were pretty much the first like cool quote unquote restaurant to open in West Kendall. We're surrounded by a bunch of mom and pop restaurants, mainly Latin restaurants, my parents' restaurant included in that, which has been open for over 30 years, 10 blocks away from us. And yeah, so we were the first people to bring a craft bar, interesting fusion, if you will. We're Latin Asian fusion restaurant. We focus on Korean, Peruvian, and Cuban. We've thrown in some Mediterranean and Vietnamese and Thai throughout the years, but so I just like to keep it Latin Asian fusion for short. And we got 222 seats. We do about, I don't know, on a given night, 300 to 500 covers, on the weekends 800 covers. So we're very busy, thankfully. Thank you. Covers are, I mean, I guess if you don't know what covers are, it's basically the amount of people you see at the restaurant. So we're very busy, and that's important to know because we're in the burbs, and it's cool that this place is bumping in the middle of nowhere, I guess, if you will.
Well, listen, I've been privileged to have been here. Like I said, I just serendipitously lunch service day one, and then came back later and had dinner service, and it's been great for the last 8 years, and I can't believe it's been 8 years, and I feel like really old. But it really, you brought something exceptionally cool. We didn't have to go too far. If you lived out in the suburbs of Miami, you didn't have to go too far to find really great quality food, exceptional drinks, and I think that was kind of like your calling card.
Yeah.
No offense to the food,
No, I mean,
but
I
that
think
was your
there's
thing.
good food in Kendall, but there aren't good drinks.
Absolutely not. So
Yeah,
you definitely did the job of planting your flag with the FINKA brand out here, to basically bring quality that
was
we
the idea.
had seen up and around everywhere else.
That was
but
the idea.
here.
I live 4 blocks away from the restaurant, so for me to go out and have a good time, I had to go downtown, the beach, Wynwood. That's when we open here. It's like right after Broken Shaker had maybe been open for 2 or 3 years, I believe, and Broken Shaker had kind of like broken. I don't know, how would you say? Like, I don't know. They had just changed the way cocktails were being made in Miami at the time, or it inspired everyone to be better.
Absolutely.
So we allotted and gave the owners of Broken Shaker did our cocktail program, and so we started with that. So for someone to start with that in Kendall at that time, it was it was groundbreaking for us, and we've been just kind of following that rubric since we started, and we're very proud of our cocktails, we're very proud of our food, but the bar for sure is I hate to admit it to my bar manager because I don't want his head to get too big, but yeah, the bar is really the center of the restaurant.
Maybe we'll call him out to hop in with us a little bit, but we did love the fact that you want to bring quality. I mean, that was the most important thing. It wasn't like a cool kid thing. It was actually, we want to bring this level of quality that Miami is starting to get recognized, because I think it had only been just a couple of years from the Broken Shaker winning Best Bar and the assorted different people winning at Tales of the Cocktail. Plus, you added that there were such great people. Sometimes I go to Cafe La Trova, so watching Julio, establish himself coming from another place, obviously establishing himself here, him winning
Yeah.
Bartender of the year, and him establishing his program. So Miami's kept always getting that attention, you bringing it out to the suburbs, to me, and still highest quality, and I think highest quality everywhere. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. I think that's just like our thing. When my mom opened these laws, it's always been about value and quality. You come here, and you don't have to come here once a year on your birthday because it's expensive or because it's too far, or we want you to come here on your birthday, but we also want you to come like 2 or 3 times a month, and you have that quality and that value. You get what you pay for. You're not overspending, and the plates are plentiful, the drinks are strong, and the service is good, and that's kind of what we go for.
By the way, you get a 2-ounce pour no matter what.
Exactly.
You don't get less, don't ask for more.
I guess unless you're ordering on Long Island, then you get more.
Yeah, that's true. There's
I think that's the only one.
Right. So, but one of the things that you mentioned is you have a lot on the menu, from things that are big plates, right? Platos fuertes, to things people can share, and yes, and they're absolutely all delicious. And we'll talk about what's on the menu. But so you get this beautiful restaurant, and you know what? We're gonna do a walkthrough, and I'm gonna film a walkthrough later, and then we'll show it. But what I want you to talk about is like what inspired you to start FINKAs, because it all starts somewhere.
Yeah, so my parents own 2 Cuban restaurants. They've been around for over 40 years. The location near FINKA has been around for over 30. But I grew up in the business. I tried to run away from it. I say this story a lot, and people are always shocked because when there's a family business, you usually kind of just want to jump into it, or I think that's how it works, right? But I was like, absolutely not. I see my mom, going to bed at 4 a.m, not being around for, different events as I was a kid, and I just didn't want to be that. So I started to study fashion, and I went to school for fashion design, and I studied particularly fashion merchandising, which is the business side of fashion.
Right.
And I loved it. I worked in the industry for about a couple of years, and then I realized there's no money in fashion in Miami. I'd have to move to LA or New York, and I didn't want to do that at the time. So I said, let me start to work with my family and see if I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And so I did, and I loved it. And so I went through all the different jobs. My mom made me be a dishwasher, and then she made me be a busser, and then I was taking care of guests at the bakery. So I had that, sorry, I'm blanking out because someone walked into the door now.
No worries. Listen. If you're an operator of a restaurant, there's no breaks. So I'm very happy that you've taken some time to chat. And
you're good. Sorry, someone was walking into our little podcast, so I had a brain fart. I apologize. But yeah, I had to learn people skills because I was kind of an introvert, and I didn't know how to deal with guests and stuff like that. So I went through all the steps, but my favorite step was the kitchen, and that's where my heart was, and that's where my passion was. So. I worked at the restaurant for a couple of years, and then I opened up a food truck, and I didn't go to culinary school, but I'll say that was my culinary school. Yeah, because a lot of shit happened on that food truck.
University on wheels.
Exactly.
You definitely have to learn fast and furious.
Yes,
so
a lot of things that the truck breaks down, the fryers break. We have a grease fryer behind the flat top. What do you do? I did a lot of stupid things. I grabbed the heavy cream and just poured it all over the truck, and then we had to clean the heavy cream. On our way to a wedding, and a pot of 100 orders of lomo saltado falls out of my oven before the wedding. What do you do? So a lot of things happened, and we had to learn to think quick on our feet. So
sure.
And then after that, we opened FINKA in 2014. So.
Wait a second. You get a couple of accolades along the way for the food truck, don't you?
Yeah, we were pretty popular, I guess. We were the first, I think, food truck that was doing Latin Asian fusion in Miami. It was my brother and I, and we were on that truck day in and day out, just us two. sweating our asses off. But we did a lot of cool events. We did a lot of caterings. We had a great time. Honestly, I would say that was like a really, although it was very stressful and very laborious, it was a very fun time.
Well, magically, we go from a food truck to a brick and mortar.
Yeah. So my parents, this location happened to be for sale, and I was in Korea. My dad calls me. He says, "Hey, the KFC Long John Silver's down the street is for sale." And I said, "Okay, cool." And he said, "Why don't we open a restaurant there?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I have the food truck. I don't know if I'm ready." And he's like, "Well, you have time over there in Korea. Why don't you just start thinking of a name and a menu?" So that's what I did. I created a menu, and we came up with a name with some friends. I invited some friends over, and we all just started throwing out names. And I still have that book where we wrote down all the different crazy, right? Yeah. And then I started to do, after I came up with a base menu.
What was the runner-up? Unless you want to sit on that one for later.
No, I think it was. It wasn't Horno, because I would know that there's a restaurant called Horno now. It was called, I think it was like Ceniza or something. But then everyone was like, "Okay, that reminds me of like a dead person's ashes." So
yeah, not a winner, but for all of you, so FINKA is farm.
FINKA means farm, and I was going for either something like barbecue named or something that reminded me of my grandfather. And so my grandfather grew up on a farm, and we paid homage to him with the name FINKA. And he actually hated it because it's like the memories I have in a FINKA weren't fun for me. Right. This is back in Cuba when you're eating like rice and beans for 30 days straight, because your parents sent you to go work on a farm over the summer. So he was like, I don't know if I like that name. And I was like, well, it's catchy and it reminds me of you, so it's happening.
Right. Whether you like it or not,
exactly.
This is what's going to happen.
Yeah. My mom told me this story recently. She's like, we were sitting in his room, and I was sitting on one side of the room on a chair, and he was sitting at the edge of his bed, and he was like hunched over, and he looked at, my grandfather looked at my mom and goes, "Mami, ese nombre no me gusta. Mami, I don't like that name." And my mom was like, "Well, Aileen wants to do it. I think we just have to trust her." And he's like, I don't know. So now, after 8 years, I find out that my grandfather hated the name.
Hated the name, love the granddaughter, love the concept. So, so fast forward, you decide to come out with something that, at least for me, when my niece is a friend of yours, says, "Hey, my friend Eileen's gonna open a restaurant," and I knew you had the food truck, and she goes, "Well, the whole concept's gonna be Cuban." I'm like, "Of course, gotta be Cuban," and Peruvian, and I'm like, "Okay, sounds cool," and Korean, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" And we're like, if anybody can pull it off, it's gonna be you. But it was like, I don't think Kendall's ready for that shit. It was like, and you must have obviously known that was a challenge.
Yeah, it was. And as we were building out the restaurant, people would walk in and be like, "What is this restaurant gonna be? Or what are you guys doing in here?" Because we would just leave the doors open. Yeah. All the nosy neighbors, we grew up in this area, so we had a sign that said "By the owners of Islas Canarias." So people obviously knew our family was behind it. So people would just go, "Oh, what are you guys doing in here?" And I would tell them, "Oh, we're doing a Latin Asian restaurant." Yeah, what? And everyone was very skeptical. And then that got me so nervous. And the only person that was kind of like, had my, not that people didn't have my back, but the person that kept saying like, "It's gonna be okay, like just do whatever you want to do," is my mom. Right. She was like, and I'm sure she was shitting her pants too, because she's my investor. Yes, so
of course. But listen, mom knows well that if you put your energies behind certain things, absolutely, that they're gonna work out. But absolutely, but every concept, whether you were opening a purely Cuban spot, would have been filled with anxiety about success. Yeah. And the best you could do is bring your best food forward, your best drinks forward, your best concept. One of the things I like to talk about is, you not only design a delicious menu, right, an amazing cocktail list, but the environment where this was the KFC.
Long
We're
drive.
sitting in we're sitting in
The
the actual
drive-thru.
drive-through.
Yeah. This is the
Now
drive-thru.
this is an extension of the building, and it's beautifully decorated. Beautifully, I love the concept. It feels so good. I mean, that's part of the beauty spot too.
That's so important to me, to go into a space and just feel the energy. There's nothing worse than walking into a restaurant with like no music, where the servers are just standing staring at you and no one's acknowledging you. And it's just like that awkward, empty feeling. I want you to come in here and I want you to feel either at home or at peace, or like you've just been transported, or whatever makes you feel good. That's what I want you to feel. And I feel like the days that I walk in here and I don't feel that, I'm like, all right, everybody, what's going on? I need everyone to huddle in here.
Everyone needs a cafe cubano, and let's hit restart.
Yeah, because it can't be rainbows and sunshine every day, but we try to create that space for everyone.
So listen, let's talk about the things that we see, or people that, first of all, remind everybody the website.
FINKA?
Yeah.
FINKArestaurant.com.
Easy.
Yeah, and our Instagram at FINKA Table and Tap.
There you go. So, I'll throw it back up there on the captions. So, see how cool.
Super cool. Awesome.
You know,
Technology.
So, yes, I love it. I'm learning to work with the streaming technology that we have. But let's talk about a little bit. I think you covered a little bit about you. We covered your restaurant. Now let's talk about someone who comes to FINKA for the first time. Right? What would you recommend for them to try?
It's hard for me to choose because
they're
I
your
go
children.
through they're my
Your
children.
phases,
Yeah.
right?
I
But
have
today,
today.
or try to put yourself in the shoes of someone who's
Never
ever
been
been here.
Okay,
Because
so
I've had the privilege of going through your menu.
yeah, I'll try to pick one from each area. So I would say a perfect spread at FINKA would be the arroz con pollo fritters, which is basically chicken and yellow rice stuffed with mozzarella cheese, wrapped into a fritter and deep fried, crunchy on the outside, cheesy melts on the inside, with ají amarillo sauce. Has a little bit of a kick. And ají carretero, which is kind of like a Peruvian pico de gallo, if you will. And
By the way, highly recommend.
yeah, that was an accident dish, actually. Someone overcooked risotto and then I had to do something with it. So
Right.
it's good when accidents happen.
Peruvian Cuban arancini.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going for.
Beautiful.
So I would have the arroz con pollo fritters, and then something light. I would definitely have the ceviche verde, which is a tuna ceviche with salsa verde, which is a spicy green sauce made from cilantro, scallions, onions, vinegar. So it's like got very interesting flavors. It's very bright. Okay, so that, and then if you're having a salad, I would have the green papaya salad for sure. Very light, very refreshing. That with the ceviche verde mixed little tip, delicious. And then as far as mains, I would definitely go for the gochujang noodles, which are sweet potato noodles with shrimp, a little bit of a kick, tossed on the wok, so it has a little bit of that smoky flavor. Delicious. If I'm going for a fried rice, I'm saying a lot of things, but this is the perfect spread. If I'm going for a fried rice, I'd go with the staple. It's the Cuban fried rice. That's our most popular dish. And that is going to be shrimp, fried sweet plantains, red peppers, pineapple, cilantro aioli, and a fried egg on top. That would be the fried rice of my choice. And then I would go for our churrasco, which is number 2 selling dish. Okay, and that is going to be a grilled skirt steak on a bed of sweet potato mash, truffled green beans, and topped with an Asian chimichurri. So it's soy sauce based with lime juice, garlic, peppers, cilantro, and it's absolutely delicious. So you have that sweet and savory on that dish. So you have a meat, you have a papaya salad, you have tuna, you have shrimp, and you have chicken. So you're covering all your bases.
That's pretty good. Let me start with my favorites. All right.
Okay.
So these aren't on my all-time favorites, but they are some of my favorites. So off of the small menu, I'm gonna go with the pork belly.
Okay, yeah.
So talk about the pork belly.
The pork belly is absolutely delicious. So we sear it first. So we use a Rational oven, which is a combi oven, so it does steam and heat. So we sear it first, then we braise it. That braising liquid is basically beer, wine, mirepoix. Mirepoix is basically onions, celery, and carrots. We put a bunch of other spices, like 6 other spices in there. A little bit of a kick in there for that spice. We use the gochujang, and then we put that in the oven for 4 hours. We remove that. We press it. So we put it on a sheet tray, and then we'll put like a box of like plantains on top of another sheet tray to
get them nice and even.
Yeah. So we flatten it out, and then we cut them up, and we deep fry them to order, and then we toss them in like a sweet chili sauce that we make in house. So it has a lengthy process, but it's very delicious.
Freaking delicious.
It's delicious. I probably just gave away our secret. If there's any chefs out there.
Nobody's gonna do that shit. Like nobody's gonna put all that work. They're like, can we just cut it up and fry it? No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I mean the best part is that we braise it. Some people don't do that, and we braise it in the liquid from the previous pork belly. So
it's
like pork belly on pork belly on pork belly.
Right. So you're like sour mashing for all you spirit nerds out there. We're doing a sour mash braising liquid. But that's where all the flavors are, for sure. Listen, I usually skip the salad thing most places, but the green papaya salad here is my favorite.
Yeah, if you want to go light, that's the way.
Listen, I'm gonna come back to like the one dish we didn't mention, but I'm gonna come back to it. From the wok, man, it's tough because being Peruvian, the lomo saltado fried rice to me is like delicious, but the japchae noodles are.
That's where it's at for you?
For me.
Yeah, that's very popular. So that's the same, like the gochujang noodles I mentioned. It's the same type of noodles, a sweet potato starch noodle. And that's tossed with like veggies and vaca frita, and it's topped with fried wontons. So you have a little crunch with like just like the tenderness of the noodles. Delicious.
Listen, you have a pizza oven here. Sometimes, I'll come around to a pizza every now and then, but the menu's so delicious. Sometimes, it's like I'll order a pizza the next time. I forgot the other favorite dish that I think most people have had, and we kind of like, it's kind of become just like a regular thing, and you expect a certain level of deliciousness. It's tostones with vaca frita.
I didn't want to mention that because that's our number one seller. And I want people to try
different things.
It's
and we've always talked about that, right?
Yeah. It's 4 tostones with vaca frita on top, pico de gallo, salsa, cilantro. It's pretty simple, but it's packed with flavor. The vaca frita is very citrusy. Tostones are a staple in Latin cuisine, so it's an easy little bite app. If you're sitting at the bar having a beer, that's perfect pairing.
Right. So let's tell everybody what exactly is vaca frita, because a lot of people don't have a Isla Canarias on the corner. So
vaca frita translates to fried cow. Essentially, it's kind of what it is. Basically,
it's flank steak, shredded flank steak.
Right. It's we braise the flank steak, then we shred it. We throw it on the flat top to get it crispy, and then there we add onion, garlic, a bit of mojo mixture, citrus. So it's like very, very citrusy, garlicky, oniony, all the alliums. But it's delicious. So it's a citrusy shredded flank steak that's seared.
Yeah, and that's perfect, and it's just so delicious. I mean, because if you do it like, a lot of places will pre-do it and it's dry. It's just like perfect. It's always just like crispy and juicy, and that's such a hard texture to get, man. I'm getting hungry already. And out of your main plates, we've had such amazing things here. I think brisket wonton ravioli was on the menu day one.
Yeah.
Still here because it's so freaking delicious.
We took it off for I think a week.
And people just went nuts.
They went crazy. That's why I'm so scared to touch the menu, because I once had a death threat from some lady in Fort Lauderdale who said she would drive from Fort Lauderdale just to have the kimchi fried rice. And we took off the kimchi fried rice because it wasn't really selling. Kimchi, candle, Cubans, they don't get it. But we took it off, and she wrote me a letter, not even an email, wrote me a letter from Fort Lauderdale because she was so angry. If you're out there.
Right. So yeah. And the other favorites, and we can go through them, but the KFC, big shout out to it, was here earlier. But it's not Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's
Korean Fried Chicken.
Yeah. And I love that. And one of my favorite things is when you guys get hogfish that's fresh.
Yes.
And if you guys want to have an amazing fish dish, man, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. People aren't out spearing fish. I don't know if it's just like the lack of employees or something, but it's hard to get hogfish these days. We used to have it every day.
Yeah, because people go out and do it. So but it'll come back.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, obviously the churrasco you mentioned, but there's going to be like that one thing to me that I love is your guajito tray.
Guajito tray. That's my grandfather's favorite dish.
And tell us what's in the guajito tray.
So the guajito tray, the way the plate is set up is we do it on it looks like one of those trays you had like in elementary school or jail or in el campo or in the farm in Cuba.
It's a lunch tray.
It's a lunch tray. But, we've had some incidences where people get upset when they get their food on that tray and they say, I will not eat off this tray. This reminds me of the time I was a political prisoner in Cuba, or someone who's like, I just got out of jail. Can you please give me this on a regular plate? Or people who start crying because it reminds them of their childhood and makes them miss Cuba. So there's a lot of mixed reviews with that. It's a little controversial, I guess.
Who would think that serviceware would evoke that? But it's incredible how deep things go. Right?
I had a gentleman about 2 months ago write on his receipt like a novel about how offended he was. And so I sent my manager over because I was like, maybe I can't connect with him because I'm younger. He was in his 70s. So I sent my manager over and I told him to explain why I did it. I wasn't trying to evoke any bad memories. It was more of just like evoking, because a lot of people say, wow, this reminds me when I was a kid, but not everyone had a great childhood. So
exactly.
And my manager spoke to him and he ended up being extremely grateful. We put it on a regular plate for him and then we said, whenever you come back, find us and we will make sure that you get your masitas de puerco, which is the fried pork, on a regular plate. And that's our most traditional dish on the menu, and it's just rice, beans, fried green plantains, and fried
pork chunks.
Pork chunks. I hate the word chunks, but it's fried pork chunks with mojo on top.
Right, and they're delicious. So, I mean, that's one of those things where it's like, you have all these great choices, but sometimes you just want to have that little bit of where all these ideas came from, and I let's kind of go into what made you want to combine these three cuisines.
It was more of a selfish act than anything. It was all my three favorite cuisines at the time.
There we go.
Yeah, so I just I had been going to Korea a couple times. I mean, I went a few times. I haven't been back and I'm dying to go back, but I'd been there a couple times. My mentor is Peruvian, and that's when Peruvian food was really like making a name for itself in Miami, and I'm Cuban. So that's really the reason why. It was a selfish reason.
It's a convergence of all the things that were great. And let me tell you that after 8 years, for everybody out there and everybody that's been part of that circle that you've created around yourself, because you truly have created a beautiful network of people that love you, that love FINKA, and are waiting for the opening of Amelia's.
Oh gosh.
So
the magic question.
Yes.
The question I get asked
tell us
on
about
a daily
that
basis.
Because we know it's coming sooner or later.
Yeah, it's coming. It's just pandemic happened. That thing, COVID. I don't know if you heard about it. Yeah. It happened, and we had to close. We had to close for a year, and that set us back so bad. But we are almost ready for a relaunch for Amelia's 1931. We added 100 seats. We added a full bar. Before it was beer and wine only. So people were sitting there thinking, I want my FINKA drinks. And then we're like, oh, well, you're going to have to have this.
We should just go eat at Amelia's and then come here for this.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. But now you'll be able to do both in one spot. And we're kind of just revamping the concept. The concept originally was diner. We wanted a Cuban diner. Not that it didn't work out, but now with adding 100 seats, it's not going to feel like a diner. So we are making it more, I don't want to call it fine dining. I saw this like stand up the other day. I was like, why do they call it fine dining? Because usually if someone says, how you doing? You say, fine. I'm doing fine. It's not a good thing. So I want to come up with a new name that's not fine dining. And I also hate that idea of fine dining. It's just going to be a little more elevated than FINKA. This will be your spot when you want to bring 20 people and get sloshed for your birthday. Amelia's would be, I want to take my family out to dinner to a nice place, or I want to go on a nice date and have good cocktails. The cocktail menu there is going to be a lot more elevated. I'm excited, Alex.
I can't wait.
Yeah, if Alex has a couple of things ready, you can try some of them today. But
very cool.
It's going to be exciting.
We're going to end this broadcast like right now. So we're going to go hit some cocktails. But listen, one of the things with the cocktail culture here is we've kind of ridden like I think a wave, right? Went from a wave of like incredible complexity into cocktails, because that was what was happening. And so I hit to 2014, people like started with the basics and then start to elevate those basics into like bigger, nicer, more complex presentations and ingredient lists, where it's like, oh, I've got a 7 ingredient simple syrup, that I can only make in certain batches, and it only goes for so far, and all these things. And now we're kind of seeing drinks not get elevated. We're starting to elevate simplicity, meaning this perfection of delivery. Making sure that for the consumer, they're getting the best quality cocktail they can get, great spirits, and it doesn't have to be overtly complex. It can be very, very simple, going back to simpler cocktails that people can really, really enjoy, but it just has to get made perfect ingredients, no cheating on what's happening. And then I think, like anything else, it'll be cyclical. We'll probably go back to more complex things. So
we are. I hadn't thought about that. We are on that kind of like simple but perfect wave right now. And we've never cheated here. We've never pre-batched a cocktail ever. Everything is made daily. Juices are pressed daily. Everything is fresh. Everything's made in house. The only things we don't make are bitters and the booze, obviously. But everything else.
Listen, there's great people making bitters, and there's great people making booze. So let's leave that to them. You guys can do everything else. But listen, it's been amazing talking with you. But as right before we part, because we're gonna go have a cocktail. Like, what spirits or what cocktails are you into these days? Because I used to be a Basil Hayden person back in the day. It's like, what are we drinking?
Yeah, when I opened, it was a Basil Hayden old fashioned every night. That kind of night.
And it's still delicious. By the way, big shout out to one of the old classic cocktails here. Here's my funny FINKA story. So I'd sit at the bar like the creepy guy that I am, right? Just watching our friends. At least my friends work behind the bar, and it's been great because you've had such an amazing crew of people come through here. They're all over the place now. The FINKA imprint is everywhere. They really are. And here's the Cuban Old Fashioned, which is an espresso syrup, Cuban coffee syrup, Old Fashioned. So very simple. Back then, I forgot what was being used. I don't know if it was Old Granddad.
It was Old Granddad.
Right. Beautiful choice.
It wasn't. It was Old Forester.
It was Old Forester 101, right? It was a higher proof one.
No, it was regular. Yeah. We can.
All right. We'll come back with that. But anyway, great combination. Excellent bourbon. Great for what I called at the time when people get personally juiced out here to a cocktail. You're going to hit them with something, brown and boozy, spirit forward. So what is it going to be? Well, it's going to be this Cuban Old Fashioned espresso syrup, bourbon based. So it's always going to be a little bit sweet. It's going to have this beautiful bitters, and it's going to have a little orange rind at the top. And trust me, whatever anybody out here says, oh yeah, you drink old fashions, and 2014, nobody out here is drinking damn old fashions. No. Like there was no old fashions at the Bahama Breeze, and there's none at the TGI Fridays yet, or Bonefish, right? Exactly. What do you want? A rum and coke? It's like an old fashioned. So that was, so I remember, being out here, great cocktail, loved it. So I do cycle through all the different cocktails, and then I would hear like some people ordering, always hear orders because I observe what's going on at the bar. And maybe like a couple of months later, I come back and it's some dude I recognize that has been around, and now he's trying to sell the cocktails to everybody else. Like he's discovered he's a king of old fashioned. Like, oh, you gotta try this drink, man. It's brand new. like, of course, I'm like, like from 1888, brand new, or like, he's like, oh, it's brand new, man. Hey, give me that old Cuban. I'm going,
that's a different
cocktail. But I dig it. And it was kind of one of the, it was the funniest thing to just sit and listen, and to feel people's excitement. I don't care if they got the facts wrong. No one gives a fuck. But this person was so excited. And I think what you brought is such an excitement to dining, fine or fast casual or whatever you want to call it. I call it great dining.
Thank you.
That you have here, a great experience at the bar. I'm lucky that you're my neighborhood spot, but now I got to come even earlier to get a spot at the bar because you guys are basically full all day, and I love that, and I think that's amazing.
And you haven't been to the new spot, to Barbacoa?
Well, not when you were there.
Oh, you went?
Yeah, I went.
Oh.
And then I tried to go back, and it was like, we're close for lunch. I'm like, what the I'm like, I drove all the way to Dram for this.
Damn. Okay, well.
So, yeah, love the concept. Obviously it's kind of like bringing the highlights of FINKA to Doral, to a brand new audience. And I think, but the Doral audience is much more advanced than we were out here in West Kendall in 2014, so they're ready for like great shit.
They already know what an old fashioned is.
And they embrace it. They know what an old fashioned is, but shout out to all those people that it's the Cuban old fashioned, not the old Cuban. Completely different, completely different cocktails, but nonetheless, I think there's an old Cuban on your menu. So if not, we'll make Alex make us one. So, Eileen, I want to say thank you for being here. Congratulations on 8 years. We're probably gonna do like a little walkthrough. We won't interrupt lunch service, but we'll have everybody take a look around. So, listen, we are airing this Tuesday night, 7 p.m. So hang in there, and I like it out here. No knock on La Trova, but when I go into the alley back there, it's kind of hot this time of year. But I can have a cigar, which is great, but it's really freaking hot. And here we have beautiful air conditioning. It's nice and quiet. I don't have to deal with a plane flying over, and it's been great. So you're welcome to join me anytime. We'll talk cocktails next time.
Love it. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Peace.